Hello, welcome back to The Ineffable Else. Welcome if you are new here. Today we are going to be talking about this month's sun as it changes from Libra into Scorpio. So we're going to be closing out the month of October with an air trine, so really take advantage of this diplomacy and this ability to communicate. I know that there's been a lot of warring energy and tension and ability to engage in arguments, and I only hope that you've been able to take advantage of this month to fight for your rights without allowing the rage to take hold of you. Of course it will naturally be triggered and come up to the surface. We all have this within us, this feeling of injustice, but how are you allowing yourself to work to improve that kind of energy on this earth rather than letting it consume you? This was particularly true of the full moon in Aries. Please let me know in the comments, how did you experience this? It was a weekend with a lot of opportunities for confrontation, and Libra doesn't necessarily like that, but it can actually be very good at that because it's able to look at things very logically and bring things to a boil, but to a simmer, to a place where we're not just fighting for the sake of it, we are just stating the truths as they are and moving on from there. What it really is, confrontation can be, you've given me a lot of this stuff and it doesn't sit right with me, it doesn't feel right for me, so I'm just going to give it back. And it doesn't mean fighting back or getting aggressive back, it's just sort of being that mirror. It's yours, it's not mine. I'm not carrying your burden. It's yours. I have my own. So it was really just about standing firm, having a strong footing, as it has been for a lot of this year, moving through the signs, is keeping your center, keeping your balance, not getting thrown off of balance. And how apt to have gone through that experience before we enter the sign of Scorpio, which is really here to come and take you under. It's the storm that is coming to take you under, and you need to let it. You need to let it take you, because if you allow yourself to be really washed through with all of the potential for transformation without any resistance, then you will be cleaned, you will be cleansed of mostly the thoughts which are unnecessary, holding you back. It's like just a heavy weight that makes it impossible for you to climb the mountains that you need to. And most of the time they were put there by other people, they were put there by ourselves to please other people, they were put there when we were toddlers and we've been carrying these things for too long. So the ability to allow ourselves to weather the storm. I mean, how many beautiful trees do you see and you think, well, actually this tree has been here through thick and thin, through this lovely sunny day when I'm here, but also through the hardest, coldest winter storm, and it's still standing. So having that knowledge that everything that you have in you that is weak and frail and feeble and mostly their concepts, mental concepts, they will be washed away, and you need to let them, because what is left underneath is this very, very solid kind of crystalline self, these fractals which are pure and make sense to life. They make sense for your life and for your purpose and your path moving forward. So everything else that can be really rinsed off by the waters of Scorpio is a good thing. It's worth it. I'm wearing my death. It's Richie's death crystal. We're all about skulls here. We're all about facing death. And I was listening to Leonard Cohen, good person to listen to this month always, because he was probably the last 40 years of his life he was confronting death in all of his music, and how he feels about it, and how he feels about meeting his maker, and how he feels about his past and making peace with that, and seeing what is left when you strip away a lot of the flesh. What are the bones of your consciousness? And as this is turning on the 23rd of October, this is the sun, which will come into a conjunction with Venus in Scorpio. So let's have this set the tone for the month. Let there be this Venusian element that wants things to be beautiful, it wants things to be harmonious, and it's all too happy for this to take place in Scorpio. These things are not diametrically opposed, they can work together. So then, of course, on the 5th of November is when we have the strongest energy of the month, as always. Remember. And this is going to be a really, really strong opposition between Scorpio and its opposite of Taurus. So we've got Venus, Mercury, and the Sun all conjunct in Scorpio, and opposite that we have the North Node and Uranus in Taurus. Again, what are your values? Always bringing us back to the values, Taurus. The archetype of Taurus is really being elevated to its highest potential throughout this time, with Uranus being there, constantly giving it a shake-up and a refresher, and it's not the most comfortable experience for the very, very grounded Taurus. So that's why there's all of this kind of consistent earthquake happening across the consciousness of the earth, across the physical plane, across the mental plane, across the emotional space. It's all being shaken up all of the time because of this pressing of Uranus to get us to evolve, to get us to change and to progress. And of course, I think it's always very, very important this time of year to see what the outer planets are doing, because they lay the foundation, they lay the basis for all of this storm to take place. And we still have Pluto in Capricorn, so you see how the earth signs are really given a revamp, and Pluto there bringing Capricorn to its knees, really ringing out through the bones of this archetype and changing how we structure things. Deep, deep transformation of the consciousness, deep transformation of what you thought was true. And at this time, nothing has seemed more ridiculous than the news. I saw in Britain, at least, one man, he said, "Wow, my child has lived through 3 chancellors, 2 prime ministers, and 2 monarchs. He's 4 months old." It's ridiculous what's happening at the time. These kind of events are taking place all over, where there's just a deep fear and doubt and uncertainty surrounding everything. And we need to find that basis within us, that fundamental inner knowledge, which can laugh at the daily ridiculousness of things. Because all of that doubt, all of that pain, all of that turmoil that you're seeing in the outside world, you've got that going on inside. As long as it is affecting you, that shows that it's there in you. It's happening in the outside because it's happening inside all of us. Things will only calm down once we all do this work inside. And of course, if just one of us opens up our consciousness a little more, that has huge repercussions on the people around us and for the global sense. It's a bit like it's even more productive than, for example, somebody doing their recycling and recycling their little plastic bottles when there are still companies pumping plastic into the ocean. It's that every little helps. But when you do work on your own consciousness to improve your awareness, and you literally clean your visibility of the world, your perception of the world, that does miraculous things for the wider world, which in turn will lead to beneficial things on a physical plane. I've seen someone throwing a can of soup on a painting recently. I mean, this is ridiculous, on Van Gogh's painting. And it's that limited scope and that thinking that acting out in the physical will somehow affect change, which really needs to be made on a metaphysical, deeper, much deeper level for things to have any real impact on a larger scale. But it's the folly of youth, and we can all grow up a bit, and then that helps the next generation, who are invariably lost and confused with this overwhelm of information, where in the past we had just a handful of books to learn from. Now we have a million TikTok videos telling us how to live our lives in all different ways and what is important. It's very confusing. So the best thing is to step up and be a leader. And it doesn't mean controlling anyone else. It means being the owner of your life. Really making your boat ship-shape and then setting it out into the storm without fear, because you know the things that matter will not be destroyed. And then you have the full moon in Taurus as well on the 8th. So as in the Libra sun having a Aries moon, it kind of adds a pop of vitality and vigor into something that's very full of doubt and shaky. Well, this is adding some grounding to something which is otherwise feeling a very, very tumultuous and spiraling time of the year. So take advantage to see this as a sort of island in the middle of the month to grapple with and to hold on to see where you're at. Check in with yourself on this date and see how you're going. I mean, Saturn is still in Aquarius, and Saturn is about control. There's no escaping how things are being shaken up in this Uranian way. So of course Halloween is also falling during this period of time. This is the night to connect with your ancestors. How do you feel about your ancestors? How do you think they feel about you? What was left unsaid? What do you feel coming through you, which is a desire really from them to fulfill and complete? Sometimes I get that and I just feel like, well, that wasn't even my deal. It's not such a big deal for me, but I can feel there's a kind of inner unlocking of the DNA. There's an inner like celebration going on, that something has been overcome, that had been bedridden within my DNA, within my psyche for many, many generations. So doing that work to heal generational wounds is very, very important at this time, and it means getting quiet. So as I say, the TV is extremely ridiculous at the moment. There's nothing, like, if you're looking for entertainment, sure, but if you're looking to go deeper and to tap into this death component of our consciousness and the transformation that comes through death, then turn it off, get quiet, go inside, just live. We're loving at night now, just having this light and no other electronics going on. The Wi-Fi goes off and we just sit together and it's just calm, and it's simplification because it's already complicated enough inside. So stripping it back so things are very, very clear. And then on the 13th we have a water trine coming along, as the moon will be in Cancer. And then we have Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces, with the previously mentioned conjunction between Venus, Mercury and the Sun in Scorpio. So a big water trine going on. Of course we're going to be going into the dream world. Of course this is a longer term thing when we talk about Jupiter being in Pisces and being there with Neptune at home in Pisces. Auspicious place for it to be, because what's better than dreaming big? And I've sort of been hit with a psychological blow recently, the realization that if we are to engage with our maker, to go beyond, we have to stretch out into something we don't know, and what's worse is we cannot imagine it. So anything that we think is our best self, anything that we think is what God probably is, anything that we think is the dream utopia of the world, nothing compares, because what we're looking for is something infinite, and our minds cannot comprehend that. So certainly trying to reach out with the mind to imagine perfection is not going to happen. All it has to be is this willingness from the heart, just this. And my mantra, I was looking, what is my mantra word going to be? The thing that will connect me, because it's all very well using Indian Sanskrit, but unless you really understand it yourself, it's not going to resonate. And the word that I fell upon was feel. Feel, 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 because this is the gateway to everything. The more you feel deeper emotions, the sadness, the regret, the grief, the hurt, and that is just the surface, which beneath that there is love, there is joy, there is true peace, there's something much, much more infinite. The hurting and the wounding is just because of a misuse of will by ourselves, by our ancestors, by the people around us, the governments. It's a misuse of will, and that hurts, really hurts. And just feeling that, rather than getting into a headspace thinking about how bad it all is and how terrible people are and getting suspicious. No, it's more in the heart, like, oh, like, can you allow yourself to feel betrayed and just let it wave through you, that, oh, like, I've really been betrayed, that hurts. I noticed with myself, I was so quick to jump on either defending the person, making excuses for the person that betrayed me, or just getting into a mental story about why I was a victim and why they were an aggressor against me. And that isn't the same thing. That's just covering over the actual deeper feeling inside, which won't take that long to feel once you allow it to come through. It can only last about 3 minutes and then it's gone, because you allow it to just go through you. And the other day everything was going really perfectly for me in my life, and I was looking around nervously at why are things so perfect. And then something came up that I'd done something, I'd forgotten something, I'd broken something, I can't remember now because it doesn't have that resonation anymore, but I got a really sad feeling and I suddenly got really happy. Like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is the opportunity that I've been looking for, to feel these feelings, because there was something externally triggering something within. And when you're reacting to something outside, it's because there's a mirror of something within you. Otherwise, you'd be able to just watch the whole play and laugh, but we're not all at the stage yet where we can just see all of life as a stage. We need to realize we've got the same players going on inside. So instead of bypassing and laughing and saying, oh yeah, well look, I just have that inside, it was, oh, I feel terrible. Oh, why? Oh, let it go. Oh, I feel so and just sitting back. So it was this simultaneous feeling glad that it was there, and also feeling this terrible deep sadness and pain, and just tears came, and I didn't question them. I didn't try and make a reason why they felt this way and make a story which would lead me down more mental passageways. No, it was just there, so just let it up, and it came. And it's like watching a baby cry. They cry, comes up to the surface, and then what? Next thing, it's not accumulating. And Scorpio's been trying to teach us that the whole time. It's here, like, here's the toilet of the year, like, you're free to flush. Feel free to flush. And how often do we let that happen? How often do we prefer to just hold on to the shit because it's our identity, it's what we identify with? So a big water trine is a flushing moment. So the 13th of November, tune in. Tune into your consciousness, tune into the waters of your body. I mean, just whenever I talk about water, I need to drink so much. So we underestimate water and how much we need it. It's actually the reason why I love living in a dry place. I grew up in a very, very humid, wet place. 300 days of rain, and now I live in a place with 300 days of sun. So water for me is precious now. I really value it, and I love the taste, and I love the feeling, and I love being with water, swimming. I like that sensation of the desire being met. Is helping me generate desire as well. It's something that just suits me, my being, and it helps me to connect with water and connect with the emotions. And this period of time is all about, don't control your emotions. Don't project your emotions. Simply feel them. How many times can a person tell you that before you understand what that means? It's very difficult for us when we try to comprehend and box up what that actually means, but it's just feeling, feeling as much down into the body, and feeling as many, where are these blocks? Why is it I can't turn my hand in a particular direction on this side and I can on this side? That kind of questioning, which is far more interesting than the daily news, far more useful and completely unique to you. And then we round off the Scorpio season with the new moon being in Scorpio, and then the sun will change into Sagittarius. And any Sagittarius knows that they're fully connected to the Scorpio archetype, and if they believe they're not, then they're lying to themselves, because you don't get to that place unless you've been through that. The reason why the smaller planets are always so close to the sun is because they always stick close. They're not like the outer planets. They don't go on such wide journeys. They stick to the sun. These smaller planets in general are never going to be too far away from the sun and whatever he's up to, where he is in the sky. So find the humor in death. Find the inner knowing of your eternal existence. Feel, I'm gonna have to get into some theology here in terms of this notion of sinning or of karma, and all of these different concepts that have been laden on top of do-gooding and bad doing. And it's really much more simple than that. For example, I know walking angels living on this earth, in terms of people who are very, very at peace. And depending how peaceful you are in yourself, when you meet that person, they will come across as either an angel or a devil. because their light is so blinding. And really all they're doing is providing a mirror for you. So that feeling of sinning and having done something wrong is really your own conscience being tapped into, and your own feeling of grief being pulled up to the surface. It's why it's very difficult for general people on earth to be able to identify saints or sinners. And we try to label it based on certain behaviors, but there are other things happening. For instance, just mental patterns, and maybe someone doesn't express a certain belief externally, but they carry that within them, that prejudice or that hatred or something. So it's going to take individual will to correct all of these things, to make us individually happier, just for our own sake. So to put that more concisely, if you do something which is out of love, it's not loving, it's away from love, and you feel bad about it when someone mentions it, or you feel the repercussions of it, it's not karma, it's not some god demon attacking you for it. This is just you in your own self knowing what is right and what is wrong, knowing what is loving and what is not. And we need to be willing to feel that. And so often we just put layers of guilt on top, or some other covering emotion, to try and not feel the things that we do feel. It's not we need to feel. We do feel it. We're just not allowing ourselves to have the full expression of that. It's held down within the body. And these things then turn cancerous. And then we complain that our bodies are turning against us, but we've been against our body the whole time. We've been holding back our emotional experience. And of course, if you hold back the bad emotions, there is no because it's just energy moving. The fact that we say it's good or it's bad is our own artificial interpretation of these things. So what you're doing is blocking emotion. You're not blocking the bad ones, you're blocking all, because there's no way to distinguish, because you just hold it down in the throat, in the body. I'm really peaceful. It's very, very, very tricky to get caught in a spiritual ego where everything is polished and you don't get angry anymore because it's just so well suppressed. It's very important to stand with the assumption that I'm probably angry under here. I'm probably frustrated. I'm probably not seeing something. I probably have blind spots, most definitely. And it's only from that place of humility and that willingness to feel absolutely everything that you'll be able to tap into the really positive emotions as well. And many times what we think are positive emotions are just our addictions getting met. It's just coming up to the surface, and that small rush of some chemical release of dopamine or whatever, it's just a drug. It doesn't have anything on true happiness and true peace and something really everlasting and eternal, and just doesn't give you that sensation of more, but a kind of knowing this is eternal. Like there isn't a grasping and a gripping and a clinginess at all. It doesn't have that quality to it. It's just so infinite, and I've just fallen into that space just a handful of times, and there are always so many thoughts that will come in to block that from being your continuous experience, because the mind is in survival mode. For its own sake, it thinks that it needs to save itself, because when you get into a world, into a way of being, which is your emotional intelligence is automatically going to make you more intellectually intelligent. Being more intellectually intelligent is not necessarily going to contribute to emotional intelligence. In fact, the intellect can very easily intellectualize the emotions and therefore not progress. So it's much better to work on your emotions, and then the mind will be more easily open to new ideas, more accessible, because there's not certain doors of your mind will be closed because they have emotional blocks on them, so you can't actually investigate. So if you want to be the highest scientist, which I do, I would really like to have access to all of this stuff. So cultivate that emotional intelligence through allowing every emotion to come to the surface, and in the way that you can put yourself in any situation, and maybe you'll get triggered, but you won't run from the emotion. Big problem for me has always been leaving my body, and try to keep yourself feeling, because so many times I think, oh, I must be feeling, and it's because I'm thinking it and I floated up outside of the body experience. And you're not going to release an emotion unless you're there, present, and able to feel it and release what it really was for you. Doesn't matter what it was, whether it was abuse, whether it was a violent, traumatic situation, or if it was just something you've picked up and collected along the way from the absolute maelstrom of this world. It doesn't matter. It's just what it is. It is what it is, which is some form of pain, some form of grief, some form of disappointment. So just all of these emotions in their pure form, they're easy to feel and let go of. With the complication of the mind, they can go on forever. And many times this is taking us into a depression state to try and help us avoid feeling these emotions, but then it's still there under the surface. So it's a terrible shame, and I've lost lots of friends to suicide, and it's because these emotions appear to be too big, too hot to handle, too heavy, and you're made to be strong enough to feel all the spectrum of emotions. You are absolutely made for it to just come through you. But the mind will fight. It will fight for its life to survive as a tool that it thinks you need to keep your life alive, and that's just not true. It's there as a tool to assist you in whichever process you want, and unfortunately the emotional process, the mind has basically got to be pretty quiet, and all you're going to do is be feeling and feeling and feeling and feeling and breathing. Sometimes it's very good to do breathing exercises where you tell the mind, very good, thank you mind for helping me count. Give it something to do, give it an activity to do whilst you let these emotions come up, and then that will help. And it's not an emotional process, it's just an emotional life. It's not a process to get somewhere, it's just an emotional life that we will live. But the more that we live more in harmony with the world, and the deeper world, not the superficial world that you see on TV, but your soul, your inner life, the less likely you are to accumulate these very negative emotions. But if they come up, you just feel them, they go. But we've got lots and lots of bags and boxes and things we harbour and we carry around with us, and that makes the Scorpio season much heavier. So drop the cargo and know that you can travel much lighter than you are. And I wish you a really happy Halloween, happy All Saints Day, and a beautiful season. It's my favourite season, and this actually marks 2 years exactly since my first astrological monthly video. I've been doing them every month for the last 2 years without fail, along with weekly videos about the different placements. So this is my labour of love, and I really enjoy doing this, and I know a lot of you benefit from them, so thank you for staying with me. And please contact me if you would like a reading, and go to the website ineffableelse.com and follow us, me and my partner Ricardo, on Instagram. _ineffable_else is the handle. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful Scorpio season. Bye bye.